In the news tonight, UN report confirms climate fears. Man in critical condition following accident. And new kit boosts local testing capacity.
From the studios of FBC Suba, Edwin Naka.
Naka. Fiji has renewed its call for large carbon emitters to walk the talk and take realistic steps to reduce harmful emissions. This follows the latest United Nations climate change report confirming that sea level rise and extreme climatic events are all but irreversible. The Interparliamentary Panel on Climate Change states that escaping from human-caused climate change is no longer possible, affecting every continent, region and ocean on Earth. For Fiji and the Pacific, the report drives home a reality that we've been lobbying against for years.
It's not a surprising alarm clock, if you like, because we could see the impact with our own eyes, and these have all been predicted too. I think this simply reinforces the reality. And going to Glasgow in about 80 days or so, we have to ensure that the undertakings given under the Paris Agreement are actually practically met and fulfilled.
The report confirms for the first time without a doubt that humans are responsible for the warming of the atmosphere, lands and oceans.
You're seeing now, bushfires all across Europe. You're seeing floods at the same time, unruly weather in the USA and various other parts of the world. So it is a reality. And so we need to be able to drive sense into these sort of the think tanks in these countries and the commercial interests that it is not sustainable to continue with business the way it is.
The UN report also says the Earth's temperature has already risen, and this, along with sea level change, cannot be reversed.
We want to be able to lead by way of example. So hopefully a lot of countries can be shamed into adopting new technologies, adopting, for example, a carbon neutral position by 2050.
We are stewards of our shared blue Pacific, 1/5 of our planet's surface. We can only be ignored at the peril of those who choose to do so.
If we reduce carbon dioxide emissions in the next 29 years, there's only a 50% chance global temperature rise will be halted. To stabilize the climate, carbon dioxide emissions must reach net zero and other greenhouse gas emissions must also drop significantly. A 27-year-old man is fighting for his life in hospital and his family is still reeling from shock after he was hurt in a freak accident on Monday. Savanada Ratu might not be able to walk properly again after a pine tree fell on both his legs while tree felling at a pine plantation in Lekutumbua. Eleanor Turangaivu has the story.
Aparo Sarangevi and his family of Voto village in Boa are still trying to come to terms with an accident that has landed his eldest son in hospital.
Any injury from tree felling either lands people in the ICU or mortuary. But when I was told he severely injured his legs, I felt a small relief my son is alive.
The accident is alleged to have happened on Monday afternoon at a pine plantation in Lekutu, where tree felling has been taking place by a logging company for several weeks now.
We were felling trees when I heard a cry for help. I ran to him and couldn't believe what I saw. One leg was crushed and the other, the heel, was almost dislodged, and it was scary.
Ratumeli Rumusaked tried to stop blood loss by tying his t-shirt around his cousin's thigh before he was rushed to the Lekutu Health Center and transferred to the Lambasa Hospital.
I hope that the company will work transparently and do justice to my son for what has happened.
The Moa-based company continues logging at the site today as police investigate the circumstances surrounding the accident. Eleanor Turangaivu, FBC News.
The Kandavu COVID-19 vaccination task force team has been receiving overwhelming responses from over 5,000 Fijians on the island who have been vaccinated. Rokotui Kandavu Kichione Raimbevu says the vaccination campaign started 3 weeks ago and to date 97.8% of the target population on the island have been vaccinated. Details with Josiah Nanunga.
Chernayawa, or come what may, we will persist. a commonly used phrase in Kandahar and is applicable in our current situation, where people on the island were so eager to get vaccinated.
We were so grateful for the turnout in Kandahar because the vaccines just reached the island the last 3 weeks, and we've started with the drive. That is for the first phase. Our second phase, which is will be commencing in 2 days' time. That is when we are going to mop up the rest of the settlements.
Rembewu says it's obvious that a good number of Fijians across the country are easily swayed by unverified information and hearsay, which demotivates them from getting the jab. But this is not the case for Kandahar.
So far, so good with the drive here in Kandahar Island, more than 90%. By the end of the next week, mop-up phase, we are targeting to reach 100%.
And I think without even looking elsewhere, just seeing our local data, it gives us a strong impression that vaccination does save lives. And therefore, I again urge everyone that we must not give space, we must not give a platform for the anti-vaxxers.
Youth members at the village are also taking charge of screening people who move in and out of the village boundaries as a safety measure, despite no cases of COVID-19 have been reported from the island. Jose Nanunga, FBC News.
Former opposition member of parliament Nico nawaikula should have been given the chance to make amendments to his voter registration details. Nawaikula's lawyer made the argument in the Court of Disputed Returns, as he challenges the validity of Nawaikula's seat in Parliament being declared vacant. Supervisor of Elections Mohammed Saneem removed Nawaikula from the Register of Voters, which also removed his right to be a candidate in Parliament. Apanisa Wangai Randovo reports the former MP had used his commonly known name to register as a voter and not the name on his birth certificate.
During a lengthy hearing today, Nawaikula's lawyer told the court that the supervisor of elections does not have the right to file a petition. He says this was a justifiable mistake and Nawaikula should have been given a chance to correct it. He claims there were over 11,000 other voters who gave their commonly used names and that Nawaikula should have been offered equal rights to make the amendment. He argued that the supervisor of election needs to justify his action in court while alleging that the supervisor has gone against the jurisdiction. Meanwhile, the defendant says there is no petition, but rather it is a proceeding to determine the question by the plaintiff if his seat has become vacant. The defendant's lawyer told the court the supervisor of elections is the administrator of the act in the topic and had made clear the term full name for registration. The counsel say if Nawaikula uses his name on the birth certificate to access his bank account, how hard it is to give his correct name for voter registration. They asked the court to dismiss the application. The matter will be called again next Tuesday. Apinisong Grandovo, FBC News.
And to our COVID-19 update for today. Fiji recorded 264 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 133 cases are from the Central Division and 131 are from the West. The Health Ministry also recorded 10 new COVID-19 deaths between July 30th and August 10th. All were reported from the Central Division. Fiji has recorded 37,766 cases since April this year. There are now 24,414 active cases in isolation, with 12,934 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll now stands at 327. The vaccination campaign also continues. As of yesterday, 523,162 people, or 89.2% of the population, have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 196,022 people, or 33.4%, have received the second dose. The 5 most vaccinated areas are Mba, Rewa, Nanonga and Naitasiri, which are 100% first jabbed. Next is Nandi. And this is Rakshana Roshika Chand from Suva, who is now fully vaccinated. Have you vaccinated yet? Up ahead, tourism operators hope to reopen in December. Welcome back. Tourism operators who are planning to hopefully reopen in December will need to follow thorough procedures first. The Fiji Hotel and Tourism Association has been working very closely with its members to ensure that a majority are ready. Details with Felipe Naikaso.
The countdown has already begun for many operators who have checked all the requirements needed for a safe reopen.
Which means that you've got COVID-safe compliance guidelines, you've trained your staff, you've got ambassadors who are on the premises to make sure that everybody is doing the right thing. There's a whole lot of activity that has to be taken up by the business to make sure that you're being compliant.
A list of confirmed operators who have passed the requirement are also with the Ministry of Health. Stakeholders have been gearing up for the December timeframe, anticipating the start of a once booming industry.
Everybody wanted to have a time frame that they needed to work towards. We had always advised government that any reopening time frames needed to be a minimum of 3 months.
I love the ambition from the government and from Fiji Airways and from Tourism Fiji that everyone is committed, that we want to get open again and restart our country. I think it's exciting.
If all goes according to plan and borders do reopen in December, operators who have undergone the COVID-19 safe checks will be the only ones allowed to operate. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
Fijians can now get COVID-19 tests done privately and at a low cost. The Fiji Medicinal Products Board has given the green light to a local pharmaceutical company to import the antigen-based rapid diagnostic tests. Kritika Kumar reports.
Ray Pharmaceuticals, which is currently the importer, says people can buy the kit for $15 and get the test done privately.
So the turnaround time, number one, quick result, it's quite accurate. It's also registered as per ministry guidelines for registration of these rapid tests. And yep, it's affordable.
The managing director says the turnaround time for the result is 15 minutes. She says the test uses a nasal swab and follows COVID preventative protocol.
So how the test works is it detects viral proteins that are specific to the coronavirus. It's different from the PCR, which detects viral RNA. That's the genetic material of the virus.
According to the ministry, only trained healthcare workers are to collect samples and conduct tests.
So every test is logged on the report form and then we forward it to the Ministry of Health at the end of the day.
The Ministry of Health and Medical Services recently started using the antigen-based rapid diagnostic test to increase its capacity. This test can be used in areas of Fiji where there is a high prevalence of the virus. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Differences at the University of the South Pacific have been put to rest for now with the reinstatement of Vice-Chancellor Professor Pal Aluwalia. Staff and students watched on from the side as the affairs of the university administration attracted national and regional attention. However, with semester 2 beginning next week, many are looking to put the past to rest and look forward to better days ahead. Lina Rees reports.
They might have logged on. Just check, please.
Speaking to FBC News from Nauru, the newly reappointed Vice-Chancellor says he is looking forward to instilling stability and ensuring that the institution adheres to the principles of good governance.
Effectively, my vision and plans haven't changed. They're about to steer the university to become a world-class institution. This is the campaign that I launched 2 years ago. I'm totally committed to doing that. So we're going to make sure that we're really connected to our regional campuses.
So we're thrilled to have it back and we can get on with serving the students and the people of our region.
The COVID-19 pandemic also brought on challenges of its own for USP as learning shifted to online platforms and virtual classes, and this will continue into the second semester.
In an online learning environment, we have a lot of experience in that area, but nevertheless, there are challenges and we deal with them as they come along. So the response is looking promising, and so that's an indication to us that everybody's looking forward to second semester.
Professor Aluwalia, who resumed office on Monday, will move to Samoa in the next month, where he will serve out his 3-year contract. Lina Rees, FBC News.
Indigenous people, civil society and government play a key role in the protection of the local heritage sites, making its submission on the proposed Heritage Bill of 2021. The Council of the National Trust of Fiji says it's to ensure that all local sites comply with the World Heritage Convention. Sainyani Boila reports.
Non-compliance of heritage sites with the World Heritage Convention will result in the removal of the sites from World Heritage List.
It is essential for them to have a shared responsibility in the maintenance of the property. It is not only the responsibility of the department that is tasked for implementing management.
Standing Committee member on Justice, Law and Human Rights, Dr. Salik Kovin, questioned how the proposed bill will help local heritage sites like Levuka.
And how this heritage bill will help in that, how it will redefine the roles of different councils and agencies. Will these bills help in any way? Talking more about the maintenance of sites.
Levuka requires a national approach. They need to work together to ensure that the development of the town is in accordance to the best benefit for the people.
Fiji Museum will be making its submissions on the proposed Heritage Bill 3 of 2021 tomorrow. Sainyani Boila, FBC News.
More than 1,500 businesses are now under the Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission radar for non-compliance with the COVID-safe protocols. FCCC has conducted over 7,900 inspections nationwide since the second wave of the pandemic, which began in April this year, to ensure businesses are operating under the COVID-safe measures. Christiana Uluai reports.
The FCCC has set a specific business continuity plan and enforcement approach into motion that focuses on customer safety when businesses are operating.
As soon as the second wave hit, we started mobilizing our team, and from 20th April till 30th July, about 1,606 traders to be in breach, and we've been continuously advising them.
The Suva Retailers Association have also commended FCCC's effort to bridge information gap in order to allow economic activity under the current COVID situation.
They are not just coming out and giving fines, but helping the businesses and telling them what needs to be done. So I'd like to thank them.
The FCCC teams are also traveling to communities outside of the containment zones to ensure that every businesses are in compliance with the current protocols nationwide. Christiana Uluai, FBC News.
Businesses are now coming forward to support stakeholders' efforts in the fight against COVID-19. Pacific Energy, through its Giving Back to the Community campaign, is assisting the Ministry of Health and have introduced new ways to assist those struggling during this pandemic. Jeshulal reports.
The Pacific Energy Chief Marketing Officer says they have also offered to help the Ministry of Health by providing them with fuel that will assist in the retrieval of sick people and COVID-positive patients.
I know it's a difficult task that you have, and if only all of us, down to personal level, we follow the protocols.
Permanent Secretary for Health, Dr. James Fong, says this assistance will go a long way in saving people's lives.
I mean, this is an absolutely essential element in our response. This resource will help us in expanding, not only looking for people who are at risk of dying, but also supporting people to stay home.
Dr. Fong says it will also help them with their vaccination efforts.
Provided us support in the past. There are other initiatives that you have supported us in, and this is one of the many support that you are providing. And I must tell you, I mean, my appreciation, when I say I appreciate it on behalf of all the people that we serve also.
Pacific Energy yesterday handed over a $5,000 prepaid fuel card to the Ministry of Health. Jeshulal, FBC News.
Here the local exchange rates are set early this morning. The Fiji dollar took a different turn today as it rose against the Chinese yuan, US greenback, PNG kina, euro and the Japanese yen, but slipped against our two major trading partners, the Aussie and Kiwi dollars. The commodities market was mixed. Crude oil rose to close at $68 a barrel. Gold dropped a few dollars at $1,731 per ounce. And silver closed down at $23.28 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money markets.
Good evening. The US dollar surged against European and safe haven rivals, but it traded a bit lower against commodity-linked currencies, which were underpinned by solid performance of Wall Street. Today, the US Senate passed President Joe Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. The bill could provide the nation with the biggest investment in decades in roads, bridges, airports, and waterways. US indexes soared with the news, hitting its record highs. The focus will now shift to US inflation numbers coming out tomorrow. Market will wait to see how the release could affect the monetary policy decision for the US Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, a measure of Australia consumer sentiment slid to a one-year low in August to 4.4%. Coronavirus lockdowns gripped 3 major cities and delivered a major setback to economic recovery sentiments. For commodities, gold prices remained depressed while crude oil prices recovered some ground. And that's all from your HFC Bank for now. Thank you.
A group of 12 soldiers from the Australian Defence Forces have arrived into Vanua Levu for the rehabilitation of Lekutu Secondary School in Boa. FBC News understands the group arrived into the country on Monday and were flown straight to Lambasa Airport. They are now under a 7-day quarantine period inside the Lekutu Secondary School compound. After the quarantine period, rehabilitation work at the school will commence. Another 25 soldiers will arrive into the country later to reinforce the manpower for the building of the new classrooms. A total of 8 classrooms fully fitted with desks and chairs, a dormitory, a diner, and 4 teachers' quarters will be built by the ADF. They will also be fitting solar power for the school and quarters. And that is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, Rakesa aims to bag a medal at the Paralympic Games. Stay with us.
Welcome back. For more than 6 decades, a central Cameroon farmer harvested cocoa from his plantation, which faithfully paid for everything his family needed. Now he is battling drought. Fiji's para-athlete Iosefo Rakesa is set to compete in the biggest competition of his life. The 25-year-old will take part in the javelin throw and shot put at the Tokyo Paralympic Games at the end of the month. It's a huge achievement in his sporting career, having taken up athletics in 2017, and Caroline Itavi reports Rakesa had to overcome personal challenges.
It was through sports that Rakesa was able to face the stigma he faced from society.
Sometimes I would go to town and be embarrassed because people used to stare at me and I couldn't go to town alone. It was through sports that I was able to express myself better and accept myself. I was able to go and represent Fiji in badminton and now in javelin and shot put.
The loss of his father in 2019 further motivated Rakesa to push himself and come this far.
I am doing this for my father because he had always accepted me and thought that I was capable of achieving anything if I set my mind on it. I will try my best to not only achieve my personal best, but earn Fiji a medal as well.
Rakesa caught the eye of coach Freddie Fatiaki while participating in secondary schools competition and has grown since then.
In terms of growing up and getting matured in terms of being part of a training squad. He has learned a lot, a very talented athlete, very strong.
Rakesa and Inosi Matea are Fiji's representatives at the Tokyo Paralympics, which starts on August 24th. Caroline Itavi, FBC Sports.
More people have been turning up to various vaccination centres in the Serua Namusi subdivision in recent weeks. Medical officer Dr. Kapil Swami says initially there were some hesitations from people as they were not coming forward to get vaccinated, but this has changed recently. The health teams have been visiting various communities to carry out awareness on the need for people to get vaccinated. Pranita Prakash reports.
With an increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the Serua Namusi subdivision, more people are coming forward to get vaccinated.
So the vaccination drive for the Serua Namusi subdivision is going on pretty well. We've seen an increase in numbers in the recent weeks. We are hitting 80%, almost 80% for the first dose and 30% the second dose.
Dr. Swami says they will also be heading out to different areas to check up on the vaccination status. He adds the majority of the people in the Nabwa area have been vaccinated.
In the major Nabwa town area has the biggest number. My Serua and Namosi are due for their second doses within the next 2 weeks, so they'll all be covered.
Dr. Swami is calling on every eligible Fijian to get vaccinated so that the borders could open up again, adding that some health workers have not been home for 4 months. He says it has been 2 long years and people need to work together to get the economy back on track. Pranita Prakash, FBC News.
And let's join Jamie now for all the latest in sports.
Thank you and good evening. Ahead in sports, Silktail's season disrupted by COVID-19 again. And Saritslev hopeful players are staying fit. This and more coming up. The Kaiviti Seals have ended their season in Australia early and will spend the next 14 days in quarantine in Nandi before preparations begin for the 2022 season. This is after the New South Wales Rugby League Board made the decision yesterday to abandon a number of major competitions for the 2021 season, including the Ron Massey Cup. Aquila Dama has more.
The Silktails will reunite with their families sooner than expected after their season ended prematurely for the second year in a row due to COVID-19 in the Greater Sydney area.
Basically, the initial plan was for them to remain in Australia for the entire season and possibly look at half the season next year being played in New South Wales, then the other half being played in Fiji.
Natambe says the players will be back in Australia before Christmas.
We've made considerations for the team to at least spend 3 months with their family before they return back to camp in Australia for off-season beginning in November.
14 of these players were recently named in the Mbati World Cup extended squad, which is a good indicator of how effective the Silktails pathway is.
For Fiji, it's nothing new because ever since the establishment of our national team, our local boys always been, considered up there with our overseas brothers, Bati brothers.
The Silktails are hoping to play some of their home games in Fiji next year. Aquila Dama, FBC Sports.
National football coach Fleming Saritslev has put his trust in district coaches to keep national reps in their teams fit during the current restrictions. With the FIFA World Cup qualifiers to be held early next year, Saritslev has not been able to put his team together due to the pandemic. However, as Venina Rakautonga reports, the national squad is awaiting confirmation to train together in a bubble before the end of the year.
Consistency at training is something that concerns our national coach.
I have to be honest and say I'm sure the coaches, they are in better control with their players at the moment than they were last year when we had the same problems with lockdown and COVID. Many of them have a very good control of what the players are doing and if they are doing their personal programs.
Saritslev says apart from catching up with coaches, he has close communication with the individual players as well.
I have been in contact with all players just to see how they are in this situation, to follow up also again from my side on the individual program.
Manager Anushil Kumar says during this difficult period, they have had to think outside the box.
He is calling the players, checking on them, how they're doing, and their daily exercises, the normal training drills, which they can do within their own bubble.
A venue and date for the FIFA World Cup qualifiers is still yet to be confirmed. Venina Rakautonga, FBC Sports.
Decorated football star Lionel Messi has signed a 2-year contract with Paris Saint-Germain after leaving Barcelona. Like football and rugby, Touch Fiji Federation hopes to resume competition in the next 2 months. A major challenge for the federation is getting its members vaccinated, which is a requirement for the safe return of all sports. Talia Materakula reports.
The Federation has been doing its homework for the quick and safe resumption of touch rugby.
We've been doing work behind the scene and we continue to engage with our stakeholders on what's happening and what needs to be done to ensure the game resume when the gate opens for all sports.
However, all planning will depend on the vaccination of its players.
I have not received the data yet, but words from the ground is that it's been rolling out well, so we need to get back those data from our respective affiliate presidents.
The Sports Commission have also been doing its own planning.
The Sports Council and the Sports Commission have been putting together new protocols, and they are very much ready to go, but we're just waiting for Ministry of Health's input there.
Touch Fiji Federation plans to resume with its business house and franchise competitions if sports is deemed to return safely. Tali Materkula, FBC Sports.
Moves are being made to add cricket to the Olympic roster. In fact, it's been an Olympic event once before, over a century ago at the Paris 1900 Games. It won't make it though for 2024, but cricket bosses are pushing for that afterwards. That's it from Sports Tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, penguins are keeping fit despite zoo closure. This and more after the break.
Cloudy periods with some showers over the interior and eastern parts of the larger islands. This as a trough of low pressure to the northeast of Fiji is expected to affect parts of the group until later tomorrow. To the west, mainly fine with cloudy afternoons. Eastwards from Pacific Harbour to Suva, mostly cloudy with light showers. In the north, it was a beautiful sunny day. The places we are checking out tonight are Suva, Singatoka and Lambasa. Lambasa had the highest humidity at 88%. At sea, expect southeasterly winds 20 to 25 knots, rough seas, moderate southerly swells. Turning to the tides, the next low tide is at 2:50 tomorrow morning with high tide at 8:55 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:28. For tomorrow, partly cloudy with brief showers over Lau and Lomai Viti Group, Kandavu and southern parts of Viti Levu. The outlook for Friday, cloudy with some showers over the interior and eastern parts of the main island, mainly fine elsewhere. And to our shot of the day, this comes all the way from Vanua Levu, sent in by our own Eleanor Turangaivu. In Fijian Pulse, we ask, do you think enough is being done by larger nations to assist smaller nations combat climate change?
I think there is still more needed for small island nations to combat climate change, and they can only do that with the help from larger nations.
Enough is not done. Climate change.
Larger nations have helped us over the years. Yes, there is help coming to Fiji, but not enough. The assistance has to come down to those also living in the rural and maritime island who have been severely affected by climate change.
Recapping our main stories, UN Climate Report confirms climate fears, man in critical condition following tragic accident, and new kit boosts local testing capacity. to our poll question. This week we are asking, should more be done for women's rugby in Fiji? Visit our FBC News website to take part and send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via our social media accounts. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 radio stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanda.